Transformers have gone through many different kinds of mini figures, mini Transformers. And this goes way back to a later part of Generation 1, but when we started getting micro, what do they call them? Shoot, no, I can't remember the exact name. But I do say Transformers. So there were a bunch of mini figures, and I unfortunately I wasn't able to get them out to show today during the stream. I may get them out later to take some pictures, but trust me, there will be much more Transformers content in the future. So eventually we got things that were called mini-cons. Now, this is not an original mini-con. This is something that came in a little bit of a later set, but you get the idea. Mini-cons are, or were, small scale Transformers that could transform from some sort of a robot mode into some sort of a vehicle, and then have essentially a third mode, sometimes that was like a weapon or an accessory that you could attach to a larger transformer. And yes, as MXA Ghost is talking about, some of the original Generation 1 minifigures were things like Headmasters and Target Masters. So those were tiny little robots that turned into a head of a bigger robot or a weapon that went on. There were also Power Masters, so little tiny figures or robots that turned into essentially engines. There's a famous Power Master Prime where it turns into a little engine that plugs in right into the very front of the Optimus Prime cab. Yes, just like GoBots. So a few years ago in the Robots in Disguise cartoon, which was the second cartoon called Robots in Disguise, Transformers continuity is very long and very complicated. But they brought back the idea of the mini-con. Now, original mini-cons, like I said, in the... What series was it? It was in the... Man, I can't even remember the names of them. It's on the tip of my tongue, though. Armada? Was Armada when they introduced mini-cons? Anyway, mini-cons were... They were not technically... They weren't Autobots and they weren't Decepticons. They were like a separate race of robotic beings that could help out Autobots or Decepticons. And then you got into some... Oh, okay, it was Armada. Cool, I remembered. And then they were kind of used as tools in the war, and then sometimes they had their own personalities, sometimes they really didn't. But they were great. They were awesome toys. And a lot of them could combine, and you could make like a big sword out of 3 jets, the Star Saber, and then they would endlessly repaint those toys as the Dark Saber and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, the more recent Robots in Disguise show added mini-cons that were a bit different. They were larger than the original mini-con toys, and they all kind of had this kind of a goofy design to them. And then a bunch of like extra bits that could combine and interact with the larger toys. Arsenal Roy 2K asks, did a company ever make figures from the episode where old Cobra Commander turned them into humans? I don't think so. I think the only real humanoid Transformers things we ever got were the Pretenders, which again, that's something totally different, but it's it was an idea. Basically, they made a line of Transformers where you got a small Transformer that did transform, but it was pretty basic, and it came with a Pretender shell, which was a big clunky plastic toy that closed up around it. And those were sometimes humans, sometimes monsters. Yeah, the Pretenders. It's an era of Transformers that, a lot of people pretend never happened. So let's take a look at these. So this is Minicon Slipstream. Now these are obviously, they are branded as their Autobots or Decepticons. You can tell from this picture. So they sort of exist as these discs that then can shoot out and become a little helper robot. This is also technically a one-step transformation. So this was around time when Hasbro was simplifying Transformers as much as they could, making them much more accessible to kids, which is great. Some of those aspects would carry over into even more collector-focused Transformers. And for the most part, collectors were cool with it. As long as the Transformer had a lot of detail anyway, if it had a simpler transformation, that's cool. Of course, not everybody in the community thought that. There will always be some that, if there's any aspect of a toy that's designed for kids in any way, then that can't be right for collectors. But that's annoying. And there's some people who genuinely want really complicated transformations. And, you know, that's fine. That's sort of valid. Now, I love the way they did these with the sprue. Because, if you're not familiar, that is the Autobot symbol. And it's a sprue that holds all of the pieces. Stumblebee. I like it. So yeah, this is super neat. Just the presentation. I can imagine if you got a whole bunch of these, and there was a whole line of these, like you could actually like display these. That'd be kind of cool. The robot itself is kind of goofy. Obviously, it's got really wacky proportions. But we'll see what it looks like with all of its bits. Yeah, and so they did bring back essentially the idea of the pretenders in the little tiny ones. That actually I've opened at least one of them on stream. But it's a little tiny transformer that folds up in a slightly larger little shell. How is this attached? Oh, he just kind of gets stuck on. So, very simple. It doesn't really do anything other than quote-unquote transform. So you just kind of squish it together. It makes a disc that you can mount onto a larger transformer's connector point, and then you just give it a pull and it pops out. And that's it. That's a transformer. Some of the one-step transformers actually are pretty complicated. You pull one part, and then with a series of springs, it actually opens up and things fold out. This one is obviously pretty simple. Not a whole lot to it, but you do get all of these added elements that can outfit it with some extra cool stuff. So we have a sword. Oh, and I should say they're also... I don't think I have any of the larger Transformers from this series. But there are all of these little slots, so I wonder if these will come into play. Oh, I think it will. So it looks like... Yeah, so you can mount these on... So essentially think of a larger Transformer with this disc on its arm, and then you can have weapons and stuff attached to that. Give it more of a function. I don't know what they're talking about over there. Breakfast is about to happen, but oh man, the plastic on this is really brittle. But that's okay. So this one has a cool lion head. How is this supposed to attach though? Doesn't really fit. I guess like that. Erdansk, it remains to be seen. I know they asked for one of their favorites, so if they're getting that, then they'll be happy. Oh man, yeah, this thing has just a ton of these little tiny connector points. On the lower arm, on the upper, on the shoulders. So yeah, I can see how when you use this as an accessory, there'll be a bunch of different things that you can do with it. Oh, I keep trying to put that in the wrong place. So we've got little fire pieces, and then what is this? Oh, another sword that I almost missed. Where does this go? Triangle. Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, you can outfit this thing with a bunch of extra junk. Fire. It's gonna look even more top heavy with these itty bitty teeny tiny legs. There we go. So that's the fully kitted out Slipstream. Is that his name? Yes. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Ooh, French toast carrot cake. That sounds cool. Did you hear Max? He said, mmm. All right. So yeah, and then again, you could take off all the little bits, quote unquote, transform it, and then reattach a lot of this stuff as accessories. Although it's so annoying. The actual connector points are different sizes, so certain parts fit in certain places, but they can't all be interchanged. I don't know if I guess that's a feature and not a bug, but it's something, all right. Darrow, a lot of intrepid people out there have made Amazon Primes out of various toys or out of cardboard boxes and made, yeah, very, very interesting, unique things to represent Amazon Prime. It's pretty cool. All right, so that was the Autobot that I had. And then we'll look at a Decepticon called Dragonus. Most of these names have been used before. If not for a similar character, then they'll just recycle names a lot in Transformers. I like to tell the story. I was at a Hasbro event. I don't remember if it was at Toy Fair or Comic-Con, but it was years ago. And it was a press event. And they had a station where you could build. At the time, they were making a line of Transformers where you could build different components to make a figure. It couldn't transform or anything. They've done this a couple times over the years, and they're always pretty junky, and they never last very long. So I don't remember what that one specifically was. Yeah, inheritance, exactly. So you could build your new figure, and then you got a little piece of paper that came with it, and you could write about your character, and you could name it. So when it got to that part, I was trying to think really hard about a cool name for my character, and possibly if I could come up with a name that had not actually been used in Transformers before. And like my creation was a Decepticon, so I was trying to think of something, and I came up with the name Crime Spree, which I don't think was a Transformer up until that point. And I wrote it on the thing, and they had like the reps walking around to make sure you weren't like trying to make a penis out of a Transformer or whatever. And and he looked over and he said, "Oh, like, you know, what's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's Crime Spree." And then like he got quiet and he looked at me, and like you could see the cogs turning in his head. Can we take that name and use it for something? Or at least that's what it looked like to me. Yeah, Aerodynsk, it was this really awkward format of these interchangeable parts, and yeah, they could be combined into like a. It was really junky. All right, so this is Dragonis, and again, so this one is more of a creature. Oh, you know what? That's so funny. In the package, I always looked at it as going this way, but silly, there's a head over here on the side. It's that way. I had it backwards. So it's got some. Oh, let me. It'll look a little less weird if I actually unfold the tail. So if you look really closely, it has a little itty bitty head there and little teeny tiny feet that stick out on the bottom. I totally didn't notice that in the package. I mean, usually in the package, the characters would be facing up, not down. So I never even looked. That's wild. Yeah, I thought it was like a robotic creature. Oh well, I was wrong. Let's see. And then it closes up into more of like a. Now this one you can imagine looks kind of like a shield that could be held by a larger transformer, or maybe put on something's back. That'd be cool. Exactly, Arsenal, right? Let's see. There's I mean, a little bit of pop out action for the one step. Although this one technically is a two step because the tail is a separate component that you have to swing out. There's a little bit of actual, you can kind of like adjust the head to look in different ways. And then we have a bunch of parts. We got lightning claws, we've got power axes, kind of blaster. You do get a lot of bits. And like I said, I don't have any of the larger transformers, so I don't know if you can attach these things directly to the bigger transformers or if they only attach to these mini cons. I don't know. I don't remember being particularly impressed by the toys in this line. I've definitely gone in and out on Transformers over the years. Sure, Aerodynsk, yeah. The most adult Transformer I think that there's ever been is, of course, excuse me, it didn't have an American release, but in Japan, there was a Transformer in. It was one of the extensions of the Beast Wars line, so they have all sorts of animals and creatures. And there's a mythical character in Japan called a Tanuki. I think I'm remembering this right, and it's like a. What is it? It's like a squirrel, some kind of creature. I don't know, but the mythical creature famously has enormous testicles, and they actually made a transformer of a Tanuki with a scrotum that was like part of the mechanical design. Yeah, exactly, Ruiner. Thank you. Did not get a release here in the United States. Yeah, these things are actually pretty cool. I can imagine doing something with these. I don't know. Maybe I'll save them and have more clutter around. Oh, that's true, Arsenal. Yeah, in the Michael Bay Transformers, there was that Constructicon with the swinging testicles. Oh man, that's so stupid. I mean, I guess it's kind of helpful that these only attach in one place, so you know where they go, but it's kind of a lot. Let's see. Nope. There we go. Okay. So we've got blades. Oh, MSA Ghost, is that a link to it? Cool, thank you. So that's probably the most uh, intentionally, I mean, adult, as in it just has some, yeah, some wacky anatomy. There have definitely been Transformers over the years that you can mistransform them to have some odd looking shapes. How does this? Oh, there it goes. It's all the way up here. Okay. All right. I see how this works. All right. That's kind of cool. Kind of cool. I like the tail. Not only does it add more to like the fact that it's a creature, but you can actually hold on to it and fly it around, which is fun. You gotta play with your toys. All right, that's kind of neat. It's got options. Dragonus and Slipstream. Yeah, I don't really have much in the way of Transformers that are still lying around that I haven't opened. And like I said, I haven't really bought any Transformers in a while. You get into it, you go out of it. You gotta fly your toys around and make the pew pew sounds, of course. Where is... So I'm still working on my Force Awakens collection. Right, Stardust. I know, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I should go and look and see what Transformers are coming out these days. So when Force Awakens came out, I bought a lot of like the generic troops. So I have a whole bunch of First Order stormtroopers, flame troopers, you name it. For the main characters, I was a little bit more, well, I don't want to say picky, but I didn't immediately buy them, especially because in the first run, like the first Rey we got was Scavenger Rey with a thing over her head so you couldn't even see her face. I was like, I don't need that toy. So I waited a little bit and then got this one. So this is more like end of the movie Rey, and she's got the lightsaber. So the first Rey figure that actually came with the lightsaber. And again, this is in this line where like you got a resistance outfit Rey, whatever. They come with all these weird parts to make whatever the heck that thing is supposed to be. Does it even say? No. So Rey, resistance outfit. Rey is a resilient survivor, a scavenger toughened by a lifetime of dealing with the cutthroats of the harsh desert world of Jakku. And of course we have it in multiple languages. Gimmicky extra crap that it comes with. So the only other Rey that I think I have in any scale that's even remotely like this is from the Disney stores. If you've ever seen Disney, for many of their properties, they'll have these figure collections where it comes in a big box or a big plastic display, and they are non-articulated plastic figures. So I did get the Force Awakens one, and so you get figures like this. It's attached to a base, it doesn't move or anything. They vary widely in quality of sculpt and paint. This one is not too bad, actually. A little bit of weird paint stuff going on. It's very rosy cheeks, but not too bad. And again, these sets typically come with a bunch of the main characters. I'm trying to think of how many figures they have. Anywhere from 5 to 12 in the really big ones. And like there's a Finn. And they're not bad for just... I mean, I would call these figurines. They're certainly not action figures. but they're okay. They work. But like I said, if I was gonna get a Rey, I wanted this version. Combine accessories from these 3 figures to make something. Wild. Ooh, you do get a bunch of extra junk. The staff part. The whatever this arm thing is. Ooh, maybe it's a personal helicopter. That'd be cool. Now she does come with the blaster. Oh yeah, this is like regular mid-movie. The blaster that Han Solo gives her, which I will promptly put in her holster. I don't need my Rey wielding a blaster. Get in the holster. Cool. It fits. Nice. Oh, did you all see that the deleted scene from The Last Jedi that was recently posted online? It was actually kind of interesting. It had humor, it had tension. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I don't remember who posted it, but it's real, and it's a scene during Finn and Rose's side adventure, and they're with DJ, and they're on the enemy ship, and it's basically an elevator scene, and they're in an elevator trying to get away, and they're being really quiet, and then the doors open behind them, and a bunch of stormtroopers come in, and the elevator continues, and one of the stormtroopers, this is a spoiler for this scene if you haven't watched it yet, but one of the stormtroopers, helmet on, faceless, recognizes Finn and calls him by his old designation, and then there's this tension. Are they going to be revealed? BB-8 is inside the trash can thing, so he looks like a different droid. He's looking around worried, and then the stormtrooper essentially relaxes and says, "Oh, I never thought you'd be, officer material. Congratulations, man!" And then the doors open, and then they get out. And I've seen some analysis just of that scene, and it's actually kind of interesting because the sequel movies obviously made stormtroopers actual humans and gave them personalities and names. Obviously Finn, and then I always forget her name in the last movie. Starts with a Z. Anyway, but yeah, it was an interesting scene, and about how somehow rank and file stormtroopers could become officers, which is also something that we don't. I wouldn't necessarily have imagined. I would imagine that the officer pool comes from something else other than these poor children that were stolen to be pressed into service as stormtroopers. Who knew? Certainly not a scene that the movie needs, but so I can understand why it was cut. But it was an interesting moment. Yeah, Fadir. Yeah, and that is a weird thing, right? Adding personalities to stormtroopers, because so many of them get mowed down all the time. Arsenal Roy says, I was reading a couple issues of the old 80s Marvel. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That right. That does exist in the comics. Yeah, before that we actually saw it in the movies. Yes. Yeah, Ruiner. And Rose, not just a woman, but a non-white woman had an important part in that movie anyway. I'm not going to stretch out her tiny little hand to put this goofy accessory in it. I'm just going to chuck this in my accessory box where it will live in infamy forever. So yeah, standard 5 points of articulation. So she can't do a lot with that lightsaber other than hold it down at rest or strangely up in front of her. It's fine. And then she does have a ball jointed head, so she can look up, down, and side to side. The likeness isn't bad for a 3 3/4 inch figure. We can compare with the, yeah. Where's the light? So, good enough. Right, yeah, and exactly. As Fadir says, it's the exact opposite reason of Stormtroopers. The original, depiction of Stormtroopers, that they were just generic, faceless. People didn't even know if they were humans inside or if they were robots. Yeah. Cool. So now I've got a Rey to put in my display. Star Wars is another thing that one of these days I need to get back to. I have a very large moving box on the floor over in that area of the toy room that is full of action figures, 3 3/4 inch action figures that need to be released from the box and put back out in my display. I just never got to it. And it's literally, it's crazy. So what I did to pack those toys up was I got my big box. I got sheets and sheets of bubble wrap. Put a sheet of bubble wrap on the bottom. Put down figures all in rows. Put a sheet of bubble wrap over it. Put another, lined up all my figures, and then just it's like a cake of a layer cake of Transformers action or Star Wars action figures, and there are a lot in there. May 4th, yeah, that's true. And there's Benjamin. Okay, so we have our. Oh, I wanted to look at. Again, I've looked before at the Micro Machines. This was a really cool pack of Micro Machines, obviously from Rebels. I had cut off the top at one point to make it smaller for fitting into a larger box. Let's check out this one. If you haven't watched the cartoon Rebels, I highly recommend it. Starts off a little, the very beginning of the show is a little weak in my opinion, but it gets good pretty quickly. Some really cool characters, really cool spaceships and things. Yeah, I never tried Resistance. I was too busy at that point in my life, and the animation didn't grab me, so I was like, I'll try it at some point later. And then, like Fadir said, a lot of people just were like, skip it. I'm sure at some point I'll be bored and give it a try. Skip. Okay, well, Arsenal Roy says Resistance is all right, and Dreadlord Herc says skip it. But yeah, Rebels is cool, and I appreciated that in this line, in these small scale lines, we got, oh my goodness, we got some Rebels, some vehicles and ships that have appeared in that show that we probably won't get in any other toy form. Although you never know with Hasbro. And you never know what they might keep putting in things. Now, Darrow, did they officially cast an Ezra for something? Because I know there have been lots of rumors and teases and actors doing silly things. But I don't know if has there been an official something? You know, Rabid Wombat, honestly, I agree that the CG stuff can look a little odd, but for me at least, I got used to it very quickly, and then that just wasn't even a factor in how I viewed it. There's a theme in the show about spirits. Ooh. So you have the ship called the Ghost, and then the little ship that docks in the back is the Phantom, and then the actual crew are what are they? Specters? When they refer to themselves like on their communications. Yeah, Spectres 1 through 5. So there's like this theme of like ghost kind of things, which is interesting because then it makes you think, well, wait, how does the overall Star Wars universe deal with the undead? Does this do they have what mythology is this coming from? But you could go down a really deep rabbit hole trying to think of stuff like that. So I have several different toys of the Ghost. It's an awesome ship. I love it. It's basically like a Millennium Falcon. It's a transport that's been heavily modified to have lots of guns and super powerful engines. It's super OP, but it's rad and it's a cool design. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to grab any of the other toy versions I had. I would have liked to show them and compare and contrast, but for another day. And again, this is the Phantom. It's a little tiny scout ship that attaches. It actually fits in right here up at the back and the top of the Ghost. And it can detach and go on separate missions. This does get destroyed during the series, but they find a Nemoidian shuttle that somehow fits in just like this one did and replaces it. Slight spoilers. But then we also get, so here is a Stormtrooper transport. Now this is interesting. So this is it from the, like I said, this is all from the show. So look at how cheap that is. We're just gonna have a hollow mold. There's, what is even that stamp in there? Weird. Anyway, kind of junky. Oh, see you later, Ruiner. Thanks for hanging out. But it's got like an armored front with blasters and things. But the cool thing is it has these little like pockets for stormtroopers on the sides, which is reminiscent of an old vintage Kenner stormtrooper transport toy that essentially had those like little pockets for toys on the outside. And then an AT something or other. I always forget which one is which. Obviously based on the AT-ST, but the expanded universe of Star Wars have added a million more AT vehicles, including one that is officially called the AT-DP, which I might not have used those those initials if I was making a toy. And this one actually is articulated, so you can move the top, which is cool. Side to side. Side to side. And then this thing, I don't remember. Is this a Wookiee ship? I don't remember, actually. I know one of you will be able to tell me exactly what it is. Give us a link to the Wikipedia, but it is a cool toy. Nice engines. Lots of details. Yeah. And then, of course, we have tiny, itty-bitty figures. Of Kanan Jarrus or Caleb Doom, depending on what version we're talking about. And then the Inquisitor here. Neat. So yeah, that's a cool set. Get a bunch of little stuff to play with. I like it. I like it. Speaking of this. Oh, well, Darrow, I hope that worked out okay. If you've got creepy dudes hanging out. In the Hot Wheels line, we actually got a larger Phantom toy. Hello, Solid Snake. We are looking at some Star Wars toys. Now again, these are die-cast metal, mostly, depending on the shape of them. Because again, you can't have anything that's sticking out can't be die-cast. So these are plastic. They're actually pretty sturdy, substantial, thankfully. It's blocky, it's chunky, but sorry. Honestly, in this scale, I kind of wish these were removable. I think it would look better without them. They just stick out too far. Unfortunately, it is non-articulated, so these wings don't fold up. That would be really cool if it did. There's no in-scale ghost for this that it can dock into, sadly. Yeah, it's just it's a little much. Like you can see. Like this one is fine on the little one, but that's odd. It's got some detail to it. Not a lot of paint to pick out that detail. Again, not even a wash. There's so much going on even on that wing. You can't really see. That thing's cool. Whatever that is supposed to be. Got some engines. There's actually a little bit of paint on the bottom. Although which, again, if this was articulated, that would end up being on the side when these folded up. But it is not articulated. I keep trying, like, maybe, but no. It's not, and I don't want to break it. And these have it's a standard connector point. They did a couple of different styles of bases for these. This one came in the line that had the flying base that you could fly around with your finger. So, like that. But it does also work as a base. It stands up. They would change that and have basically standard display bases in the second series of these toys. And they're all interchangeable, which is nice. They also did some play sets that had action features and things that would use that same peg, so you could swap out. We've had a couple of those, mainly for Benjamin, but there was one that had these on like sticks that you can move around, and then we had this gigantic playset that was the Millennium. It was supposed to represent the Millennium Falcon fight scene when Rey and Finn first get the Millennium Falcon in Force Awakens, and it was this giant thing that you would set up on the ground, and it had this tower that you attached a ship to, and it would fly it around and flip it over, and then you would try to knock down these little TIE fighter standees, and it was a big mess of a toy, very loud, like clanking motor to move it around. It was just awful. It would swing the toys would fly off the end and can just go in random directions. It's very dangerous. I don't recommend that one at all. But yeah, so here are our Phantoms. There is a Phantom in the X-Wing miniatures game, but I'm thinking it's probably it for Phantom collectibles out there. They haven't made a lot of them. And like I said, it did not survive the series, so. Rabbit Wombat, it was fun for a couple of minutes, and then And then you realized, oh wait, this thing is not the best. We got rid of it. We played with it for a while, and then I think it went into the donation pile pretty quickly. Since we are looking at this line, I think we'll open up one more. The small but mighty A-Wing. This one specifically is from Rebels, so it's got a little bit more of colorful pattern to it. A-Wings date back to the original trilogy, and they've been in most of the expanded universe. A-Wings are smaller than X-Wings, more lightly armed, but faster. I should say specifically faster at sub-light speeds. When it was announced that there was going to be a Star Wars novel called Alphabet Squad, something like that, where there was a squadron of heroic fighters, and they were all in different ships. So an A-Wing, a B-Wing, an X-Wing, a U-Wing, a Y-Wing, blah 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 blah. And there was a YouTube video about it talking about how, number one, it's a terrible idea to have a squadron where everyone is flying a different ship, because it just causes endless logistical nightmares, but especially in speed, because when you're flying, anywhere you go, you have to adjust to the slowest of your ship. So if you're flying at sublight speeds, everybody has to fly as slow as, I think it was the U-Wing. But then if you're going faster than light, everyone has to go as slow as the A-Wing that has just a teeny tiny hyperdrive in it because it's such a small ship. Arsenal Roy, yeah, I love the B-Wing. B-Wing is super cool. I've got some B-Wing toys. So yeah, A-Wing is the typically the smallest, one of the smallest starfighters, smallest one used by the Rebellion and the Resistance. Pretty sure. I don't think they have anything smaller. It's teeny tiny. It's super fast, very agile. Doesn't have massive weapons, but can pack a punch when it needs to. And yeah, it's super cool. I love the design. We see this sort of triangular design in a lot of spaceships, but it's cool how it's just cut off the front, blunt that thing. It's got these cool offset engines that are sort of at an angle. And yeah, these little blasters on the sides. And the color scheme is cool. We've seen these in, typically A-Wings come in red or green, depending on which, specific show or what you're looking at. So it's cool to get one in these colors. And like I said, this is from the second series. This one actually has a real display base that plugs in, which looks great. But you can, if you wanted to fly your A-Wing around, you can pop it on this other base and fly it this way. Yeah, Dreadlord Herc. So yeah, in the original canon, they were racing or stunt ships that were turned into fighters. Yeah, like so many other things. And then yeah, Star Wars canon and continuity has it's changed a little bit over the years, with different owners and different expanded time periods in introducing things. Actually, Arsenal Roy brought up the B-Wing, which had a fascinating design and build history in the expanded universe, and then was revamped into a new design and production history in Rebels and modern expanded universe. Yeah, originally it was created by the Mon Calamari, and actually Admiral Akbar was a part of its construction, and then in Rebels they sort of went a different way with it, which was still cool. And we got, in Rebels, we see essentially like a prototype B-Wing, yeah, with like the super crazy weapon on it and all sorts of cool stuff. It, yeah. I mean, you can kind of see. No, yeah, it doesn't really look like a bee. That's one of the things that has stuck around in Star Wars, despite the fact that it makes absolutely no sense, because our letters don't exist in the Star Wars universe. Now they did exist in the original release of Star Wars, which became A New Hope later. Uh, there were panels that had English writing on them in the movie, and then they went back and they changed that, and then they wiped that out. But yes, without our letters in that universe, why is this called an A-wing? Why are why is something like this called an X-wing? I can't I cannot answer that question. But what are you gonna do? It's still cool to call them these things. So even so, yeah, maybe it's just the shape name. I mean, sure. I mean, you can rationalize it however however you'd like, but clearly it's in the real world it's because yeah these things resembled our letters, and then they did it for the original movies, and then I don't know if they just didn't think it through or thought that nobody cares. Who knows? Anyway, we have cool ships, and the A-wing is definitely one of them. I've seen a lot of videos of the new, what is it, Star Wars? Is it called Star Wars Squadrons? The current video game that people play, and they stream a lot. And the A-wing looks super fun in that game. It's been a very long time since I played a video game like that, but it looks neat. Gil plays A-wing, and he streams, so you should check him out. So yeah, we got some Star Wars, we got some Transformers. I was gonna say it's another day celebrating Hasbro, but not entirely, because these are made by Mattel for the Hot Wheels line. I think that line has ended. I don't think they're making more of those anymore. I'm not sure. They did a couple. They did a couple ships in this line from Resistance, and they didn't produce many of them, so I don't have any of them. The ships looked cool, at least. I don't know anything about them because I didn't watch the show. And then they did some for each of the for most of the recent movies. So like I've unboxed a couple that I got from Solo and things like that. And then they did a couple of ships that were like prototype versions of things. They did like a prototype X-wing, not a Z95 Headhunter, but a different prototype X-wing, and then some other things. But I didn't pick up any of those because they were really weird looking. And then they did a Razor Crest, but it was impossible to find at retail. And then you could get it on the secondary market for a lot more money. It wasn't a great toy either. It wasn't super detailed. And then they, blew up that ship anyway. So, spoilers. Which is endlessly funny to me because Hasbro did essentially a Kickstarter for a massive Razor Crest 3 3/4 inch scale ship, and they raised a ton of money, or enough to produce it. People paid hundreds of dollars for this thing. It's still in production. They haven't released it yet, and it's already gone out of it's been destroyed in the show. So by the time they actually get the toy, it's like, well, cool. Now I have a toy that the ship doesn't even exist anymore in the show. Which is kind of a bummer. I would think. I did like in that so many times in Star Wars, even with I mean, the ghost is pretty OP in most respects. I mean, the Millennium Falcon is obviously crazy fast and powerful, even although it does have, like, the Millennium Falcon breaks down all the time, so it does have its drawbacks as well as its positives. But the Razor Crest, except for a couple of scenes of it fighting, it pretty much, the Razor Crest is just a crappy ship, and I kind of love that about it. It was constantly breaking down, and of course the repairs that were done were just ridiculous and completely unbelievable. That somehow you could just patch up a ship enough to get it to leave an atmosphere and fly at the hyperspeed, but whatever. But I did love that it was really junky. I know, Rabid Wombat, are we going to get the Razor Crest 2.0? Who knows? We'll see. I unfortunately, I could see them doing that. Yeah, give them a new ship. We'll get a new toy. that one's come and gone already. Right, exactly, Zardoz. Just keep cranking out the old crap. Cool. So I'm gonna attempt to see if I can get one of these automatones working. If they do, I'll bring them with me to Jessica's later. For today is Doomsday. 5 p.m. Pacific. Jessica Nerdy's channel will be maybe reading more Dune, but we'll at least be doing something entertaining. I can promise you that. And then tomorrow, I will be back for Warhammer Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, I love it when people do mock-ups of toys of things that have been destroyed or killed or whatever. So the charred skeletons for Luke's aunt and uncle, and then with it after Infinity War came out, all the people that were trying to sell like bags of dust as all the different Avengers that were snapped out of existence. I always get a kick out of those things. It's goofy, but it's great. Yeah. Oh, right, and all the clear things. Tau stealth suit. Mattel has actually done packages of Wonder Woman's invisible plane where there's no toy inside. It's just a clamshell with an empty slot at the bottom. Yeah, so goofy. Erdinsk, I cannot promise anything, but it probably won't be the Scott song. I mean, it may show up at some point. It certainly shows up on a lot of Andy and Janelle's streams. Although they do play other names as well. It's not just mine these days. It's definitely turned into a thing for sure. Oh yeah, and HeroClix, yeah, as Arsenal Roy 2K says, HeroClix has done some great stuff with dials for characters that are invisible or tiny, where there's actually no figure on it. It's just the dial itself. We used to call them pucks. But yeah, Invisible Woman, the Atom, all sorts of things have been done that way. So yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Like I said, Dune later on today, Warhammer Wednesday tomorrow. I'll see everybody on the Discord, on Twitter, and all of that. And otherwise, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully it's a good one. Oh, Hudsonizer. Yeah, Shrinking Violet. They did one of those as well. Hudsonizer, you missed some... Yeah, I gotta get going. But I did some Star Wars, a Rey action figure, some Hot Wheels Starships, some Micro Machines, and some Transformers mini-cons. I'll take a picture and post it up. But I'll be back later. All right, have a good day, everybody. See you next time.